I'm Croaky here at the National Climate Emergency Summit in Melbourne, and I have Anika here, one of the keynote speakers today. Anika, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, so my name is Anika and I'm based on my family's farm out at Broken Hill, which is far western New South Wales, and I've come to join a panel session called Everybody's Problem, and it's those people on the front lines who are talking about climate change impacts and what we need to do about it.
And what are your big messages to people, to climate change activists, to government, to everybody else out there?
Well, the main message is that agriculture and farmers are feeling the impacts of climate change today because we're experiencing reduced rainfalls, we're experiencing higher temperatures. These changes in these weather patterns are actually impacting our businesses and our food and fibre production capabilities. And so we're seeing people leaving these rural communities, we're seeing impacts on mental health, we're seeing, some big impacts on vegetation and water resources and biodiversity. But something that's really interesting in agriculture is that it's a key player in the solutions and that we hold a lot of the keys of solving this problem, and that's a really positive message that I'm also here to share.
Before we get to that, could you just talk about your personal experience on the farm, what the impact has been over recent years and where you've got to, as you said, as a food producer?
Yeah, so it's been getting really hot and dry out in the Broken Hill region. Now, Broken Hill is naturally a hot and dry bioregion, but you look at the projections and it's becoming hotter and drier, that we will experience more frequent and intense droughts and dust storms, and that has very real implications on my future, on someone who dreams of taking on the family farm. And it's quite heartbreaking to actually see the true impacts of these droughts that are becoming more intense and more frequent.
You said you see climate change happening out the kitchen window. What does it look like there at the moment?
Yeah, so it's unfortunately we haven't had the recent rains that a lot of other New South Wales has received. We got about 3 mils last week, so barely enough to settle the dust. So looking out the kitchen window, we see the red dust blowing along the landscape, and although we do everything we possibly can on our property, these changes are happening at such a rate and a scale that we're getting to the end of our adaptive capacity.
You gave some examples of that, of things you've tried to do. What are they, and what's got to the end of that capacity? Yeah,
so we've done some quite extensive tree plantings on our property, and because we're experiencing open ground temperatures, reaching these 70 degrees Celsius, because we're not getting the rainfall that we used to get, the vegetation's dying, and even though we're doing the tree plantings, they aren't succeeding. We're also seeing the impacts on our livestock, and we've had to reduce our livestock numbers quite drastically. So it's trying to learn how to adapt quick enough for these changes that are happening at such a rate.
You said then that agriculture can play a very positive role. It has solutions. What are they, and what's stopping us from getting them?
Yeah, so there's lots of ways we can reduce emissions from our sector, like all sectors throughout, this nation. So we can look at how do we, retain vegetation, and how do we improve genetics and, engineering and all of this. We can also help draw down carbon from the atmosphere, the excess stuff we've put up there through carbon sequestration and, capturing in our soils and vegetation. What's holding us up at the moment, there's not enough research, development, extension happening in many of these rural areas. There's no clear direction because we don't have a national strategy on how to cope with climate change in agriculture. So we definitely need policymakers to put that in place, so we've actually got the roadmap of how to get to this vision that we all want to see made a reality.
You talked about that, about representation. Now, many country areas have national or coalition MPs who are supposed to represent their interests. Why are we not seeing the action for climate change coming from those communities?
Well, that's something we're definitely trying to change because, if you are a rural representative who says you stand up for rural Australia, you have to be standing up for climate change. And this is why we're seeing a growing voice coming from the farming community and from rural Australia saying, if you say you represent us, you have to actually be representing us. So hopefully we will see changes there because we desperately need climate change action.
And where can people go and find out more about the work that you and other farmers are doing?
So if you head along to Farmers for Climate Action, it's a terrific website. They're also very active on the social media platforms. You can see what farmers across the country are doing and you can get involved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.